Hello, everybody, and welcome to Libromancy, a podcast about the magic of books. I'm Josh, and today I'm talking about the Gorgon Incident and Other Stories by John Bierce. This is an anthology of stories. I had so much fun reading it, you guys. There are so many good stories. There are 24 stories in this little anthology. Now, that's a lot more than I actually thought there was going to be going into it, and they were so funny. Now, it's going to be a little bit in a non-spoilery way. We're going to talk about them. I love that these stories are. It tells you the time frame for them. You know, this is 400 years before the main of the Mage Errant series. This is 250 years. This is happening about the same time as this, so it can give us a little bit more texture, or not texture, but context into when these things are happening and how they relate to things that are going to happen in our series, and also can answer some of those questions where it's like, well, we know that he got in trouble over here. Like, oh, now we get to see that episode. This is nice to see. Now, a majority of them are not directly relevant to the story of Mage Errant, but they were still a lot of fun. I thought he played well within his own magic system, that he kept. Nothing was revealed that was like, oh my gosh, of course, that's how it's so different. They were very similar, but even being, it was, of course, the same magical world, right? But it still felt new and interesting, the things that he did with it without feeling like it was breaking any rules. Let's see characters. This is a tough one because you're only with each character for a short amount of time, and some of the stories are not actually stories. They are reports or letters being sent back and forth. And so there's no character there, but the voice that he has with those characters, with those stories, so funny. I just let's talk about one of them really quick. It's minor spoilers, okay? Here it is. It's the Tale of Boots, where it's Talia has requested a dossier, basically, about these boots, all the boots in Candor and Crux's special storage vault, where she keeps all the very dangerous things. And so it just lists like, well, here's these boots, and here's all the things that she thinks, they've done this many assassinations. We don't know where they came from. We can't destroy them. We've tried locking them up. We've tried burning them. We've tried throwing them to the moon. Theoretically, it's just like all these things that they've done, and nothing works. You can't kill the boots. They have it's got telekinesis. It's got mind control. It can, do this. It makes people dance until they die. Just hilarious stories about this pair of boots that goes around killing people, anybody and everybody it can. So just hilarious. Every story felt like its own thing. It didn't feel. There are a couple repeat characters in these stories, and those stories kind of felt like they did have this nice through line where it's like, here's the beginning, here's the middle, and here's the end of this character's, story, but we're not seeing their whole story. We're just seeing a point here, a point there, and it was nice that way. Of course, his writing was extra good. Each story was very concise, and I liked that, and had its own feel without being too big. I feel like every story had a nice plot where it's like introduction, rising action, climax, and falling action. And sometimes you end right on that climax because it's a short story and you don't need as much of an ending, a denouement with those kind of things. So that was okay. Really, I really enjoyed all these stories. I don't think maybe there was one or two stories where I was like, not super excited about this story, but I felt like for the most part, out of 24 stories, I really like 22 or 23 of them, I have a hard time even pointing to one and being like, this one was not as good, or I didn't love this one as much. So they were just fun and good. Just the way he's able to grab you and be like, here's the situation, let's go for it. And you run at it full steam ahead. All right, let's talk about some spoilers for a second here. We're going to get to the story. So out of 24, I'm going to talk about a couple of my favorites. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about what goes on specifically with them, and then I'll see you guys later. All right, we already talked a little bit about one of my favorites, The Tale of Boots. These reports, you guys, are just so funny the way they're written. I would pull it up and read from for you, but it just doesn't do the same justice. Either go find it and listen to it. It's an audiobook. I'm sure they did great with it. Or go find the book and read it. Just hilarious, this boot section. Now, the other one, Who Killed Celtiver Cloudscale? It's about the Havath Empire. They have killed, or they think somebody has killed this dragon, Celtivore Cloudscale, who keeps stealing from them even bigger and bigger attempts. Think you're Robin Hood, but he just keeps getting bigger and bigger. First he steals one or two things, then he goes and makes a big spectacle over here, and he makes a bigger spectacle over here. And so they find him dead, and they're like, oh, he's dead. Like, we got to have it. And we're from the point of this person who's trying to identify who killed him so they can give out the bounty. And you can just sense the frustration and the anger in her head where she's just like, listen, people, I know you didn't kill this magical dragon with some hay. Quit trying to lie to me about this. Like, it's just so funny, the creative ways people are like, oh, yeah, I killed him with my hay. Yeah, he ate it, and then I made him choke on it. And it's just like, no, you didn't. He's burned and beaten up over there. Like, he didn't die from a stupid hay thing, you know. But she has to do it, and she's got word from on high that the bounty has to be visible so that everybody can see it to, you know, restore faith in the Havathi Dominion. Of course, I kind of called this one. I was like, oh, this is going to be so funny if he steals it somehow. He is not dead. It was a fake. He steals the treasure because he's got cloud magic, so he can, you know, he made it look like a cloud clone, basically. I laughed so much. It was hilarious. I love stories about thieves and thievery and things like that. Those are like some of my favorite like tropes and stuff. Let's talk about Aphasia. She is an Aphasia. I don't know. She's a Mage Errant. She's got a Fool Silver affinity. I loved her story. We get 3 stories from her, all about, you know, going around and like killing nobles and how she started as a Fool Silver affinity, trying to take out the Lich where she lived in Skora. You know, Kandarin helped her. She goes and rescues some other people. That was so fun. And then when she takes out Skora again, and she's like makes this huge quicksilver mirror and like melts a little bit into his demesne. I never know how to pronounce that word, but the Lich's home area. And then the chains are shooting through the sky, and the quicksilver coats him and goes back in. And then she's like, I have freed you from this great power. You will never see me again. And then nobody ever does. But like, oh, it was so good. Like her whole story, the 3 of them, I loved it. But I have to say, one of those other ones I really liked, the essay on magical swords. It's a letter between Kandarin and the Lord of Bells. And then it's also to Satisia, the Enchanters Guild, basically. And Kandarin's like, look, you guys, magic swords suck. Magic swords are boring. Magic swords are basic. You know, a magic sword is not cool, basically. Like, you as enchanters should be lifting to enchant and lift things up and to make things better. You know, like, the sewer system, the magically enchanted sewer system is way better for everybody than, like, another sword, because a sword has to have somebody to use it. And, you know, cast fireball from the sword. Wow, that was so ineffective and useless. Like, why waste your time? And then at the same time, the Lord of Bells is like, whoa. Magic swords are pretty cool. Like, I do good magic swords. And Kandarin's like, yeah, of course, you do fine magical swords because yours are interesting and different. Like, a generic fire sword is not cool. And he's like, yeah, but think about the repeatability. Like, a sewer system is grand, but if it takes one special person who can enchant that and then it breaks and then it costs 10,000 gold pieces versus this one that's a little less efficient, a little less cool, but it's cheap and it's generic, and if it breaks, we can replace it easy. That's the one we got to go for because, you know, not everybody's going to have access to the same things we do. And so it's back and forth, and they're like, oh, enchanting, what's the purpose of enchanting? And then this one person from the Havathi Empire writes into it, because it's an open letter, so it's out to everybody. And they're like, you guys are both wrong. You both suck. If you and the Enchanters Guild want to join up with us and the Havathi, we'd love to have you. Kandarin's evil. The Lord of Bells is evil. Just like full-on hate spewing to both of them. And they're like, and then the last note is like, the last letter that came from this discussion was found pinned on the Havathi person's body, who was headless and stabbed with an enchanted sword. And it's just funny because it's like their letter back. They're like, oh, this person joined in on our conversation, but didn't add anything productive and was in fact quite rude. Let's just murder them. Now, obviously, you know, the background of the Havathi people and everything, it was just really funny in context. But I think some of my favorite stories out of this whole collection have got to be about the Dursa of the Vault. Dursa of the Vault. She is so cool. She has a gold affinity. She works for the banks. And I love that we get this little secret like Dursa of the Vault, which means, hey, I was a Tarnassan baby that nobody wanted or was an orphan or whatever. And so they gave me to the bank because that's what we do with orphans here. And then I become of the Vault, and that leads us to Lorna of the Vault from the actual Mage Errant series. And so we see this little connection, and we get a little bit more history and stuff about it. So really fun. But Dursa is a bank robber. It's a penetration tester, basically. She goes in, She makes sure she sees how she would break through the vault, and then she, helps them fix it. So funny. So the first one, she has to, Doris Ine, the gold phoenix, is coming. They have to secure this vault. She's like, well, here, try this. Will you guys do this? And nothing happens. And I like that her first story actually ends in failure. She doesn't protect the vault. She gives them a bunch of options. She tries this one really cool thing that should work, except for the fact that where she's doing it at prevents it from working because there's a natural, she's trying to liquidize the gold and then she'll reconstitute it later. But unfortunately, where she's at, the ground is all the reconstitutor, so she can't dump it out and have it work. So funny. I love that one. The other one, what's it called? Beyond Fire's Grasp. She has to go in to this super secret naval base, and she has to figure out how somebody stole something. And she's like, well, this is how I'm going to do it. And she starts interviewing people and talking. She gets everybody in a room. And then she's like, yep, I basically actually just distracted everybody. And I said, it's the easiest answer. Whoever found that it was missing, it's the people before just didn't put it back. And lo and behold, that's what it was. It was such a nice setup and a nice twist. So funny. I think one of the ones I didn't like the most would just be the Dead Alchemist one. That one just kind of fell flat to me, where it's about an alchemist who's a bold alchemist is a dead alchemist, but it basically reads just like a loner getting mad because other people are getting praise when he's actually just I am too focused on my stuff and I don't help anybody and I don't actually talk with anybody and I just take offense. And it was a good story, well written and everything, but that's probably one of the ones I liked the least. Yeah. So again, everybody, I really highly recommend, if you like the Mage Errant series, you have got to read The Gorgon Incident and Other Stories by John Bierce. I really enjoyed it. It was so fun. 24 stories. That's quite a lot, actually. But that's going to wrap up my discussion. Oh, wait, one more thing before I wrap up. John Bierce is publishing another book. Let me check. Yes, it's The City That Would Eat the World, the More Gods Than Stars series, is what I believe. Publishes in February 11th. I am really looking forward to that, you guys. About a month away from that. I'm going to read it for sure. It's going to be fun. But that's all I have to talk about The Gorgon Incident and Other Stories by John Bierce. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks to David Hillowitz for the intro and outro music. Of course, if you have any questions or comments, you can send those to libromancypod@gmail.com. Leave a review. Like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from. And remember to secure the magic of books.